How many of you went shopping Saturday morning, yesterday? Come on, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Is that all? You must be smart people. I went shopping yesterday at 11 o'clock in the morning. It might have been one of the biggest mistakes I made in my life. I don't go usually shopping at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but there were just a handful of things I wanted before the storm of the century was coming. And I went over to Hannaford, and the lines, the checkout lines were unbelievable. You know, if you had a cart, I only had like about 4 or 5 things, so I went to the express check out yourself. And even that, I waited about 12 minutes. There was a guy, he was so frustrated. He had in his hand a cup of coffee, and I think he got some deli meats or something. It was in a package wrapped, and he had enough of it. He just put it down and he said, "I can't handle this." It reminded me of something I saw someplace. There were people in line at a supermarket, and this gentleman butts in the line and gets in front of 2 people. You know how you all like that, right? And I think he was waiting for a response. And some of the responses, well, the people just let him do it, and some people said something to him. But this is what he did. He only had 1 or 2 things in his hand. He says, "I want to pay for this, and I want to pay for that person's or the 2 people he butt in on." So next time somebody butts in, say, "Well, thank you for buying my groceries." You know, today we hear, like 12 minutes. I was waiting in line, and I figure that's about how long my homily will be today. 12 minutes. So someone's timing me right now. Anyways, today we hear about a number of people, as I said at the beginning of Mass, who are called by God. The servant in the first reading from Isaiah, might well be Isaiah himself, speaks of being formed by God in the womb. Paul shares he was called by the will of God. And then we have John the Baptist, who was called to make known to Israel that Jesus was the Son of God. And each of them dedicated their life to carrying out that mission, that ministry, that call. But they were called just not to proclaim the faith, if you were, to the people around them, but to broaden the outreach. You know, Isaiah called to bring the chosen people back to faithfulness, so he thought. But God tells him, no, you got to go further than that. My salvation must reach the ends of the earth. And Paul, I think, clearly understood what Jesus was asking, and we know that Paul went to the wider community, to the Gentiles, and established Christian communities. And then John the Baptist, in making Jesus known to Israel, prepares the way for the Messiah, for the mission of Jesus, to bring salvation to one and to all. And it goes without saying that that's our call today. We don't have, some people have the name Isaiah, some people have the name Paul, some people have the name John, but in a general sense, we're all called, no matter what our names are, to continue to bring the will of God, to make it known, to carry on the mission and ministry of Jesus in our own time and place. Here I am, Lord, as we hear in the responsorial psalm. Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. And what is that will? What is that will? You tell me. You tell me. You know, the will of God is just not these 4 or 5 things. The will of God is much more, much broader than that. And each one of us in our own way makes the will of God or brings the awareness of God in the salvation and goodness of God known to people in ways that are unique maybe, or at least special, or different than the person next to us. This week, I was in a little circle of myself and 3 lay persons, men. We were waiting for, it was at a funeral, and they were the pallbearers, and so we were talking a little bit. And I was very much edified by the conversation. 2 of the guys were talking about their children. And the one guy was saying how he prays every day for his children. And I'm sure most parents, all parents do that. But he had a special prayer, he says, that he prays every night for his children. And this was it. He prayed that his children would find good and faithful spouses. And I said, that's a great prayer. That's a great prayer. You know? And then these 2 guys, same group, they start talking about something I think they founded maybe about 17 years ago. It's a 4-week program, but it's open. It's like you only go for 5 days. But it's 4 weeks during the summer. And it's for people over the age of 21 who are challenged in some way in life. And they come up to this camp that they use, and he says, the one guy was saying, it's the basics. You got a place to sleep, you got running water. But he said, it's very beneficial to the young people who come, but also he said, for us. He said, some kids, or young adults, never been on a boat. And here they are on Lake George, on a boat. And he says, it's a wonderful thing. The one guy said, yeah, I take 4 weeks off during the summer from my job to do this. And I said to myself, what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing. What a witness, in a sense, to sharing goodness, but sharing God, These guys, it was pretty obvious that these guys were people of faith. They talked about their churches a little bit. Not all of them were Catholic. I only discerned one who was Catholic. The other 2, one guy, at the end of all this conversation, he says, I'm an ordained minister. I won't tell you where. But that doesn't matter. Doesn't ordain. We're all ordained by baptism to bring the word. And so how do we do that? How does our actions every day, as ordinary as they sound, or as maybe extraordinary as they might be, proclaim the gospel today? That here I am, Lord. I've come to do your will.